class. What's going to be recorded today is making a simpler version of the bouncing ball. I'm going to give you the code for a ball that bounces up and down. You may want to try applying this similar thinking for a ball that bounces left and right. And once you have those two pieces together, if you do them simultaneously, you have a ball that bounces like counterclockwise or clockwise. That's pretty much your assignment. Later this week, I'm also going to show you how you turn what we know currently about variables into this new way of thinking called object-oriented programming. So in this case, you can call it a bubble, a balloon, something like that. It's a simple object. It starts at the bottom of the screen, it rises up, and then we'll add on the part that bounces. Okay? You may have done so in previous assignments simply, but putting the two pieces together is something I think you're now ready for. As always, when starting a new pen, you add in p5.js under the JavaScript tab, save and close. Notice we don't see anything on the screen because we don't have our functions for setup and our functions for draw. Oops. If you're like me, I like to call these sanity checks. First, let's see if we see a canvas of size 200, 200. And now when I click run, I should see a gray screen. Is it white? Yeah, let's make it gray. Background to 150. Notice if you just put one color for the background, there it is. Okay, I have a 200 by 200 canvas, great. To get something else going on, let's draw our favorite function, an ellipse. We're going to need it. Since we want it to start down at the bottom of the page, according to this little frame-by-frame drawing of a balloon in the first two frames and a ball in the next one when it bounces off the top, let's draw an ellipse towards the bottom. Y grows positively, so maybe I'll have at 190, or middle of the page, 100. So it's going to be about here, and then 190 for Y down here, and maybe 50, 50 will be our size. Save and run. We see a white circle. It overlaps a bit. Maybe I'll make it smaller. 30 and 30. You choose your size accordingly. Okay, good enough. And then we apply the next new idea. This was like the first 5 or so weeks we learned to draw things. And now we can make things move. That was our next unit, animation. In order to do that, we had to enlist the help of some variables. Maybe this one will be your Y speed. You'll also have your Y position. You can call your variables what you want. Notice up here, we declared them. Declare variables. We do so at the very top. Zoom out ever so slightly. Okay, so I have two variables, Y speed, Y position. Then in setup, I'm going to initialize them. So that's giving these variables a value, giving them some meaning other than a name. So this is the initialization of variables. Let's have our speed, since we wanted to grow up the page, be y underscore speed. Since it goes up the page, it's -1. And then I'll have my Y position be that 190. Okay, let me see if I can fit it all on the screen, like so, okay? Nothing new. We declared two variables, one to help us control speed, one to help us control position. We've declared and initialized them. And we can do a quick sanity check. If we run our code, we don't see anything different. We haven't used these variables just yet. We've told the computer they exist. Here's where they start. Save my code. As I scroll down, I'm going to use my variable. First, let's start off using Y position. I should see no change if I did this correctly. Save and run. Whoops, I broke my code. Since I know that I last ran it, I saw that circle, my mistake has to do something with this variable. And look at that, I spelled it wrong. So then fix the name. Names have to match. Save and run. And I should see my circle at position 190, size 30, 30, 100. Great. Now the next part, we need to use our Y speed. So one of the lines that you'll see very commonly in computer programming, y position equals y position plus 1 minus 1. We do minus so it moves up the page, and now we'll see something familiar. This circle leaves a trail. We're like, okay, darn, I forgot something. If I don't want the trails to be left behind, I have to start by drawing that same background over and over again to cover up what came before. Now I have my moving circle, my bubble rising from the bottom of my screen to the top of the screen. Woo. And it keeps going on forever and forever. Neat. So we're about like what? 7-8 weeks into the semester so far. This is what we've learned. And now, in order to help us change the position, we can use y speed to help us out here. Plus y speed, adding a negative number is just like subtracting a positive one. Y speed, we should see it still rise up the page. And now, this is where we're kind of in the end of our bubble territory. Now we want to do a bounce. In order to conditionally change that behavior, only do it sometimes. Notice the English line will be when the bubble or ball reaches the top of the screen, I want the ball to move downwards. Okay? So that's the English phrasing. And now we got to translate it into computer code. That looks like, using an if statement, if your y position becomes negative, so it moved way up here, then we want it to move down. So y speed equals positive 1. And that's what it means in computer language for it to move down the page, right? Y grows positively like this, so we change that difference, which we've captured in y speed, and we should see something different. Okay, let's see what happens. Save and run. Bah, it doesn't move at all. Anyone see my mistake?
Yeah, you spelled.
Yes. Okay, save and run. Boop, 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 boop. Ba-dunk. Yay! Darn. Now my ball doesn't bounce off the bottom part of the screen. Okay? Yes. So now we apply that other kind of logic. And if it's helpful for you, you may want to draw a little comment when the bubble reaches the bottom of the screen. Then I want the ball to move upwards. Okay, ball, bubble, I'm using that synonymously with each other. Let's have this. So when you see an when, then, or an if, then statement, it translates to using a conditional. And that was another large chunk of our work this semester. So y position, notice now we know that it has grown too large, so it has to be greater than the size of your screen, which we know is 200. You could also use height here. Height is an environment variable that's mapped to the canvas size. Either one will work, assuming you spelled things correctly. Now we change our y speed to be equal to -1. Okay, this two lines of code matches this English phrase. Let's see what happens. Boing. Nice. And slightly overlaps, and now it moves forever, bouncing up and down these walls. Okay, we've started with a ball or balloon, and now it turned into a ball. I recommend for this first day that you do it, make the ball bounce left and right, going like this. And once you have those two parts, if you make them happen simultaneously, you'll have a bouncing ball. Okay, we're going to need that code because we're going to adapt it to make a ball object, and I'll go in more detail on what that means. You should be really comfortable, or rather comfortable, with everything I talked about so far. It pretty much summarizes the first like 12 weeks together. If statements, variables, making things moves with animations, the looping idea is present in your draw statement, your draw function. This stuff repeats over and over and over again. Okay. This is what I hand off to you for now. Later this week, we'll go into this object stuff. you can definitely get ahead and read over one of our texts in this class over here. And way up here, getting started with P5.js, there's a little PDF. They talk about objects in terms of a robot. I think it's chapter 11. You can read a little bit about that. This person has good style. It's not like a traditional textbook. It's like largely a narrative form. Tell you how to make things. Where's the index? Pretty sure it's chapter 11. No. Objects are chapter 10, okay? Chapter 10. They'll go over like drawing a robot, and then they make that robot into an object. And if you want to get a head start on what objects are, you can read this chapter. Again, this is the PDF, Getting Started with P5.js, located at the top of our Google Classroom under Reference. Concludes my little demo. Just to get you back into the groove of things, we've coded a ball that bounces up and down. I recommend you make it bounce.